Definitions. The surplus is what's left over of the government's income when all the bills have been paid for the year. This year, the amount is $115 billion. But up until a short while ago, the government spent more money than it had taken in as income, so there was a deficit. So to be able to pay its bills in those years, the government borrowed money. The national debt is the accumulation of government borrowing over the years. This amount is currently $5.7 trillion. And like you and I, the government has to pay interest on its debt. This year, the interest payments alone are $215 billion. And that's a lot of money. Now, we'll try to show you the relative size of the surplus at $115 billion compared to the national debt at $5.7 trillion. We're going to make a stack of $100 bills, lay directly one on top of another, and see how tall the stack is when there's $115 billion in it. Then we'll see how tall the stack is when it's worth $5.7 trillion. Each bill is 0.004 of an inch thick. Pretty thin. As the stack rises, we reach $1 million surprisingly soon, at 3 feet 4 inches. Continuing upwards, the amount of money in the stack of $100 bills has increased to $375 million by the time it's reached the top of the Empire State Building. So it takes just over 2.5 Empire State Buildings for the stack to get to $1 billion. At the top of Mount Everest, 5.5 miles, the pile is worth $8 billion. The stack needs to go up to the height of 14 Mount Everests to reach the US surplus. So here's the first of the two numbers that we're comparing. We're representing it by a stack of $100 bills that's 72 miles high. This reaches up to the altitude at which meteors are active, and that seems like a pretty big number. But now, let's look at the stack of bills that represents the national debt. It races past the Empire State Buildings, the Everests and meteors, and before leaving the Earth's atmosphere, it passes the $1 trillion mark. The stack continues up into space. And when it reaches 3,598 miles, it finally equals the $5.7 trillion of the US national debt. And that's a number so big that if some earthbound 5.7 trillionaire were to spend it at the rate of $1 every second, it would take him and his succeeding 4,500 generations 130 millenniums to get through it all.